Hey Wolfpack, welcome back to another video on your favorite channel that features a boisterous canine and killer shades. So today I wanted to talk about a situation that went down in Ohio recently where we see yet again another teacher caught in an inappropriate relationship with one of their students. Honestly, there seems to be a lot of this going on these days. It seems like every other week we're turning on the news or getting on the internet and seeing another report of some teacher getting freaky with a kid. It also seems like there's a lot of different views and reactions to this topic in recent times, from the public, and a lot of it seems to depend on your beliefs, your age, your social situation, your environment, what have you. I really am interested to hear what you think and where you stand on this particular situation and other situations like this as a whole. So be sure to hit me up in the comments after the video and let me know what you have to say. Alright, so check this out. An Ohio softball coach who allegedly had relations with a 17-year-old student 8 times, including in the back of a car, not sure why that's relevant, could be jailed for up to 5 years. Ashley Ryson, 31, pleaded guilty to charges of battery and gross relational imposition on October 12th. Authorities obtained footage of her allegedly having freaky time with a 17-year-old student 8 times in April of 2021. She is currently waiting for the final trial on November 16th, in which she could get registered as an offender. The assistant prosecutor also stated that, in addition to what the child tells us, we do have recordings between Miss Ryson and the child of where Miss Ryson makes multiple incriminating statements and asking and begging the child not to report her to the authorities. So, first off, I am glad the student in the story had the courage to come forward and report what was going on so that it could be stopped. A lot of times in these reports, you will read that the relationship had been going on for as long as a year or even over the course of several years, but it looks like it only lasted a month, and I know that might not seem like a big deal, but there are scientific reports and publications that show that certain parts of a child's brain don't actually finish forming until they reach the age of 25. And why that matters here is that the longer these types of scenarios play out, the more detrimental it's going to be on the child long term. So while a month isn't anything to celebrate here, it is better that it came to light and ended sooner rather than later. Even for a 17-year-old, this is going to have lasting effects on how they think, how they view the world, how they interact with society or at work or even with their friends. It's basically going to have an impact on every aspect of their life for the rest of their life. I guess my biggest question, and probably everyone else's biggest question when reading all these stories and accounts of these predatory teachers is why? What is it that's causing this influx of young, attractive teachers throwing their lives away for a fling with a student? Is it a maturity thing? Is it a self-respect or even a self-loathing thing? I just don't know. One of the articles I read included photos of Ashley, and as you'll see here, she's not that bad, She's not, as they say, hurting. She could easily pull just about anyone she wants, so why is she getting involved with a student and taking on so much risk? Again, it's not like there's any shortage of reports on these types of crimes. These teachers have to know, just from seeing all the other stories in the news, that they're gonna get caught and they're gonna get jail time. It's irrational to think that these teachers don't have some kind of awareness of the inevitable consequences. If they get involved with a student, and not even just awareness from the obvious moral conflict, but they literally have hundreds of examples of others getting caught and these people losing 5, 10, 20 years of their lives, losing their jobs, the respect of their friends and family, but still, for whatever reason, they feel the need to follow through on this. Of course, this begs the question, is this mentality any different from any other crime? There are thousands of accounts of assault, theft, murder, what have you, and these crimes are still committed by people every day. Okay, so maybe it's not stupidity or ignorance that's causing these situations to continue at an increasing rate. But if not, then what is it? I personally think social media has a lot to do with it, to be honest. For most of our lives, we all men and women have been bombarded with messages and images since we were kids telling us, we can do whatever we want. There's no remorse, no repercussions, just do what's fun. And at the same time, we're also being taught by these platforms that we're not good enough, we don't measure up. We need to be more, and we need to have more. So by the time we hit our 30s, most of us do mature a little and move past the insecurities and the spoon-fed digital addictions as much as we can, at least enough to function in the world. But some, like Ashley Ryson here, don't move past it. They're getting older, the glory days are behind them, as they say. And then along comes someone younger who gives them attention and some proximity affection, and boom, they dive in and they just start laying a path that's going to lead to things that are no good for anyone. And they think they shouldn't have to say no to this because they were taught that they deserve it all and to do what makes you happy. I mean, guys, come on, this is all just a steaming pile of conjecture. Don't take this as written in stone. I don't know what goes on in these people's minds any more than you do, but there has to be a reason for all the increased cases of predatory teachers. Oh, and one final bit of conjecture, if you'll allow me the time, is that, you know, the further our society sinks into the destructive anything goes norm, the worse all of this stuff is gonna get. Like this whole do what makes you happy nonsense I mentioned before. Seriously, that's the worst piece of advice anyone could follow. It's a mentality that leads to nothing but trouble. You name it: divorce, debt, homelessness, and in most cases, death. It takes some people longer than others to get there, but it all does lead to the same place. Listen, I say we get back to doing what's right. I say we get back to ignoring our feelings and using our heads. A little logic goes a long way in this world that they've created for us that's filled with emotional dependencies and unfiltered access to everyone's lives. Remember all those old movies our grandparents used to watch where the rebel was the guy who didn't care? He was the guy who did what he wanted when he wanted, and he didn't care about consequences. Well, as crazy as it sounds, being a rebel now is doing what's right in spite of the world around us. It's thinking before you speak and act. It's chasing integrity rather than only doing what feels good. Wolfpack, let's be rebels. Let's take them all by storm. Let's ignore the idiot celebrities and their out-of-touch influence and their nonsensical illusions. Let's turn our backs on half-wit politicians, blue and red, who only care about lining their own pockets by telling us what they think we want to hear and never really considering what's actually best for we the people. Let's keep clear eyes and strong hearts while the powers that be try to paint red to white and wrong to right. Let's forget about social media influence and live our own lives. Let's make our own decisions about who we want to be and what we want out of life. Let's push back on all these distractions with honor, with integrity, respect, loyalty, and character. Trust me when I tell you that this world is seriously lacking in these areas, and it's going to be a much better place for all of us with more of that stuff going around. Alright, I may have gotten a little off track here, but you get what I'm saying. Let's just cover a few final notes about this whole teacher situation. So I did see a comment on one of the sites that was reporting on this story that made a fair bit of sense. And the comment read, the age of consent in Ohio is 16, which means a 16-year-old can legally engage in a relational activity with any person 13 and above. The one and only reason this teacher is in trouble is because she's a teacher. If she hadn't been a teacher, then we wouldn't even be discussing this. And I do have to be honest, I didn't actually look up to see if the age of consent in Ohio is 16 and just fact check this comment, but let's just assume that this commenter is right. I really do have to agree with them, but probably not in the way that he or she would like me to. Yes, the law is the law, but a lot of the talk around the internet when we're hearing about allegations and inappropriate behavior is this concept of positions of power. We see people getting canceled left and right because of this supposed position of power, and if it's going to be relevant enough to ruin lives in places like Twitch and YouTube and Twitter, etc., then it has to be relevant in the real world as well. And that's exactly why I think that any teacher who enters into that type of relationship with a student, regardless of age, is predatory, and they should be punished to the full extent of the law. Teachers are supposed to be advisors and educators, carers, and helpers. They're trusted by parents to always have their kids' well-being first and foremost in their mind while the kids are in their care. So when a teacher allows things to progress with a student in such a way that leads to an inappropriate situation that they know is wrong, then they should be severely punished. 5 years isn't long enough for Ashley Rison, in my opinion. Granted, the main article I used for reference in this video is the only one in the list that I actually read that said 5 years. Another said a decade, and the others didn't really give a time frame, but my point still stands. And here's where you come in, my fellow packmates. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments. I read every single comment you guys leave, and I like to hear others' opinions and understand the differing views on these things that I talk about in my videos, and I look forward to hearing yours. Well, my dear friends, that does wrap up another video. You can take a second to like the video and hit the subscribe button. I will love you forever. Every bit of support, I mean, I really appreciate it, and I'm especially appreciative of each and every one of you for hanging out and watching the video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and join in the conversation. We're always talking about crazy stuff over there, and I am looking forward to next time, guys, gals, and Wolfpack pals. Peace.